Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to BecomingMeTV. And Margeux, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. And
I'm so excited
I
to be here.
cannot wait for all of you to hear Margeux's story. I literally am a fan. I've stalked her on social media, no shame. And but her story and how she shares it on her social media pages is so inspiring and empowering. So I'm excited for you to unpack that for us today. And to kick it off, like, who is Margeux? What are the fun things about you?
Yes. Okay. Fun things. I'm like, am I fun? I think I'm fun.
I'm sure you are.
I know. I was like, as you get older, you kind of like, am I fun still? Am I cool? But I'm 34 years old. I am a single mom, 3 kids. I have a 2-year-old daughter, I have an 8-year-old son, and a 13-year-old boy too.
Cool.
I know my hands are full.
Oh yeah.
But I work in ministry at my church, Christ Church of the Valley, and I do social media there. And then I also freelance doing social media strategy, brand consulting, and mentorship, actually. I have a heart for like mentorship and just leading and helping and better together, that whole thing.
Absolutely.
But also I'm half Filipino, Nicaraguan. I grew up in a crazy family. I'm an extroverted introvert. If people don't believe that, but it's a thing, guys. My dad's a pastor. So growing up, yes, I'm 1 out of 5 girls and I'm the middle child. And I always tell people, I'm like, you have to learn to be extroverted, first of all, having 5 kids and being the middle child, being a pastor's kid, you grew up in church. And then, God called me to ministry and I knew, okay, I can't be shy. So I'm definitely can be extroverted, but at heart I'm introverted. So
That's too funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about what you just said? And for all of you watching, literally Margeux and I just met for the first time, while we're filming this.
Yes.
So I didn't know that about you, but I describe myself as an extroverted introvert.
You do. Yes.
I totally, and I'm a pastor's daughter. So
oh my gosh.
Girl, we just hit best.
I'm telling you. I know.
I love it.
That's so funny. See, that's why I love how this connects people.
It's awesome. And you're a coffee drinker, according to Instagram.
Obsessed. When you took a sip of your coffee earlier, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm waiting for mine, guys. My friend's going to bring it in soon. But
that is awesome. I love it.
I love coffee.
I love it. Well, hey, I've been able to hear bits and pieces of your story and just following your journey on Instagram. And I would love for you to take some time right now and unpack your story. Like, what has made you who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey. And I always tell people, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm like an open book. And some people are kind of like, whoa, you're way too, you share too much. But for me, my whole idea on that is social media can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to use it, God's been very clear to me, you're going to use it for good. Yes. And you're going to be brave and share your story. And even if it's for the one, you're going to do it. So I'm really open about that. So, basically, I got into an abusive relationship when I was 16. I met my boyfriend at church on the worship team because I'm also a worship leader. And met him at 16 and we, started having sex. We didn't have accountability. We weren't, we just didn't do things right. And we fell into sin and we started having sex. And because of those issues and things we were doing, I truly thank you. I got my coffee, guys.
Yay! What an awesome friend.
I know, he's the best. But I truly believe that because we did those things, we allowed the devil to just come in. And he crept in and things like jealousy and being possessive and doubting yourself, your self-worth, and just all that crept in. And unfortunately, my boyfriend started becoming abusive to me. It's the first time he hit me, we were only 16 years old. And it just got worse and worse and worse. As it got worse and worse and worse, I lost myself more and more and more. I even though I'm introverted, I was still very bubbly and I loved life, and I just lost that light. And it just, again, this was, you guys, a 12-year battle. So by the time I was 20, I got pregnant out of wedlock, and we had a son. still abusive. At that point, I just poured myself into my son. And I will say it's kind of like that was the start of me getting a little bit back of like myself.
Okay.
Because I remember when I had my son, I loved this child so much. It was like this love I never knew. And it somehow reminded me of like how God's love for me was. It's no joke. That was like my son was maybe like 5 years old or 5 days old. And it was like this aha moment where I'm like, tell me like how I love my child. Like you would just this love. And that's when I discovered a little bit of myself, but I stayed in that relationship, continued to get worse and worse. And then 5 years later, I got pregnant again, and same guy. And it was still terrible. At that point, it was now to the point where we were so poor. He was using drugs and alcoholic and cheating on me and all this stuff. And I still stayed. And I know a lot of people are like, what? A lot of people that don't know the domestic violence and that whole world, they're like, that's just dumb. Like, why didn't you just leave? Ooh, and that always like, oh man, it's a thing, because when you're in an abusive relationship, you are so debilitated. You are so manipulated. You are so terrified. It's a mixture of, I'm physically afraid to leave. There were times when I did physically try to leave, and he'd either beat me into submission, or I was just so, I couldn't even drive. Like, I had like PTSD for years, even after, but, or you're just in your mind, you're so confused, and you really are like so insecure that you think no one's going to believe me. I can't do any better. No one's going to want me with the kid, 2 kids. I'm a pastor's daughter. I work at church. Like, this is humiliating. Like, you feel so much shame, And so those are a lot of things that people ask me, like, why didn't you just leave? I'm like, one, I did try,
Yeah.
So anyways, it was 7 years ago this month where, or 8 years ago this month, I went to a toy store that my church holds for families in need. And somebody nominated me because, again, I told you I was like really poor. I mean, it was, my electricity was getting shut off. It was bad. And I was too embarrassed to ask for help. I was kind of living in this shame and isolation. And I poured myself into my kids. That's probably like one of the best things. I'm a good mom. So I've always been a good mom. But, it's like at the same time, it was a little dysfunctional because I didn't know who I was. I just found my identity even in just my children and not God. So someone nominated for this toy store, and I went. I was like overwhelmed with the love that I was being shown, the gifts. I couldn't believe our church did this because it was the first year that we did this. Wow. Seeing all the families, I mean, my heart was like exploding inside. At the end of the night, she asked if she could pray for me, and I basically confided her, and I said, I'm not in a good relationship, but I want to get out. I just don't know how, but I'm ready. And I told her, please pray that God would make a way for me to get out safely, me and my children. And so nuts, because that, again, was another glimpse of me putting like light to the darkness and me stating out loud, like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I started praying for that specifically. And that was, December 8 years ago. And that next July, it happened not in the best way, but God still made a way. My ex had attacked me here at work at church in the parking lot. And he was hitting me and stuff, but my coworkers saw, and they all came storming out. And like us, this army, I just remember and my kids were with me. Like, one of them grabbed this son, my other one grabbed that one, my other coworker grabbed my bags. The 2 guys were pulling them off of me. I mean, it was crazy, but he ended up fleeing because they called the cops, and he was terrified and stuff like that. He literally ran over one of my coworkers and injured his leg. It was that crazy.
Wow.
But he took off, and that was it. Immediately they called my family to come because I was a wreck. And our pastors came, they prayed over me. They got my kids into the counseling pastor's office, and they all were like, let's go now. And I said, I'm ready. Like, are you ready? And they took me to the courthouse. I filed for a restraining order, and I did all that, went through that, and that was that. And that was July 2011. and I never
Wow.
went back. So that was like such a crazy almost 12 years of my life. But the like few years after that were even crazier because, and I always say this to people when I share my story. If you heard that term, you could take the girl out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out the girl. So I like that statement because I'm like, I feel like I grew up in East LA, so like I can be a little ghetto. But what I say that to say that I was out of that relationship. I was not confined to those walls anymore. I had a restraining order. I had protection, but inside in my heart and my mind, I was still this victim, this traumatized, scared, terrified girl. And I knew I need to get my life back. And I was like, Lord, like, I'm still here. How am I still here that I'm not in this relationship? And basically it was like, hey, let's get you help. And I reached out for help. I like poured myself into counseling. I started working out and doing yoga and running. I got into a women's life group. I got my kids into counseling. I read all these self-help books. I went into therapy. I mean, support, CR, Celebrate Recovery, all this stuff. And it took me 2 years of intentional help. But it's amazing. God like transformed me and he changed me. I was able to, because I'm telling you, I couldn't be in the dark. I couldn't be alone if I didn't like to be around men at all. If anybody raised their voice to me, even just a little, I would just would freak me out. I'd have panic attacks and it was just awful. It was just awful. I had to dig down deep, 12 years of just so many issues.
Right.
So it took a lot of work, but with the church's help and amazing friends and my family, God he did a miracle, in my life. And that was 7 years ago now. So that's kind of been my journey. So like now I like pour myself into, I love the church and I loved the church already because my dad's a pastor. I grew up in it, but just to see how the church is really for people and for all the broken people. I get teary-eyed when I even talking about it right now because I'm like, oh, I just love the church so much because people, if I didn't have the church, I don't know where I would have been. And so I'm just super loyal, not to just my church. I love all the churches because I know how much work it takes and how much they truly love people, even though they're not perfect people.
Right.
So my goal is just, I work in ministry. I love the church, but I'm trying to also get out of the church bubble and take my ministry out into outside the walls.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you can do both.
Oh yeah.
And so doing stuff like this and just like I said, through social media, sharing my story and letting others know like you're not alone and miracles can happen and you can come out on the other side of it. So
absolutely. That's amazing. And I mean, just watching through everything you've gone through and then you shared, you had to take intentional steps and you had to fight for 2 years. I mean, talk about lacing up your warrior boots. You did, and you relace them up every day. And that's all that
and still
do. Yeah.
And still, because that's the thing is people, it's ongoing. When you struggle with something, it's ongoing. It's not just, oh, I did it for 2 years, mark it off my checklist, I'm good. Right. No, because we're still human. Right. People will still let you down. You'll still get your heart broken. Yeah. Life still happens. Seasons change. And so those things that I learned a few years ago, I have to practice them every day. And keep my guard up,
Absolutely. And that's what all of us truly need to do. Because even though you might walk through steps, I love that you said it's not really something that you check off your list, like I'm done and I'm over this. Something might hit you that you never would have thought hit you in a certain way. And then you're back mentally or emotionally. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were having coffee with another woman on her own becoming journey, and
my favorite thing.
And you're just encouraging her, you're pouring into her. What would you say to encourage her on her own becoming journey?
So many things. Hopefully one day I can do it in person with everybody because, or we follow along after this and stay connected through social media because I feel like it is an ongoing thing.
Yep.
And I'm still learning myself. I feel like you can never stop learning.
No.
But if I had to just kind of like throw out some thoughts I had that really helped me, and that even today I kind of focus on, is things like, there's a difference between shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty about things sometimes, but I will not feel shame because God's already taken that for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to feel shame. Shame is just the devil trying to remind you of the things that you do wrong, trying to knock you down. So I literally have this saying that when the devil tries to keep it in mind, and I encourage people, like, say it out loud. And I say, kick rocks. Whenever I know that this is, I'm like, because I know it. I would say I have kind of a few points. One is like, what do you believe in? So if you're a Christian and you believe in God, then meditate on scripture and the truth. You know, that's the truth. So memorize it, speak it out loud. When you are feeling anything, insecure, doubtful, angry, confused, weak, weary, speak scripture out loud and call on Jesus' name. Remember what you believe in. Another thing I say is, who are your people? We're not meant to do life alone.
Yep.
Don't isolate yourself. Be brave and get yourself plugged into something.
Yeah.
If that's like, if that's just, I'm going to DM Becoming Me's Instagram and just tell them, I'm struggling with this, I need help. Or if it's someone like me that you follow and admire, or you think we're like-minded, DM me, start with that. Or join a women's group, join a life group, go to church on a Sunday. Just who are your people? Surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up and who are going to like push you to Jesus and walk alongside your journey. Not the negative Nancy's, not the girls that are doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I had to do that. I had to stop hanging out with girls that all they want to do is party.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm a Christian and I'm strong, I can't put myself in that situation over and over and over and over again without having the other side. It's like going out's not bad or anything, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
You need to have balance. So
absolutely.
Who are your people? Who's your tribe? The third thing I tell people is like, what you do matters in your day to day. So, work out, pray, listen to worship music, write in a journal, do devotional, your actions serve, do something. Don't just sit there and let the days pass. And all you do is like, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, or go through the motions. Like what you do matters. Yeah. Be intentional with your time. Yeah. And that includes rest. That's something I didn't know how to do before. That's probably my biggest thing now is like resting and getting comfortable with saying no to people. Yeah. Self-care. So what you do matters. And then lastly, what's my last thing that I always tell people? I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't remember. I generally, my mind's going to blank.
You shared with me before about why you share your story, which.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, I'm in the process of doing my website, and on my social media profile, you could see like my little tagline and model what God's put like on my heart of like, this is what you're called to do. Is I'm called to inspire others to own their story by sharing mine. And my whole thing is like bringing light to the darkness. It's not only healing for yourself, but it's healing for others. And doesn't matter what our past is, God can use it. Yeah. But we need to use it. Exactly. We need to let him use it. And so I would just say to these women, one, you're not alone. So know that we are all in the process of becoming me, we are. And just know you're not alone, and just keep going every day. And like you said earlier, like I've had to fight and battle because it is a spiritual battle and you need to fight for it. So keep going, keep fighting for it, and focus on the end, which is God. God promises us the hope, the future. We know what he can do. So focus on that and just know like you're not alone. Don't ever think you're alone. We're all messed up.
Oh yeah. Girl, that's a good word for sure.
Yes. A beautiful mess.
Oh yes, for sure. So I was thinking of this question too while you're sharing your story. If another woman is watching, you share who you are, what you walked through, what you journeyed through, and she finds herself in an abusive relationship today.
Yes.
what should she do? I mean, she closes her laptop, she shuts off her phone, she's done watching your Becoming story. What does she do next?
Okay, so there's different ways, because if there's children involved, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I like to always really say to the women who see this, if you are in an abusive relationship, or if you think you're in one, you know, again, contact me, email me, DM me, and I will send you signs of like, okay, if you really don't know, but if you are in one and you're done, I would say the first thing you need to do is get somewhere safe.
Yeah.
So if that's a family member, a friend, someone at church that you think you can confide in, if you don't have any people, please, I'm not kidding you. If you truly want to get out of this, you go to the police station and you literally tell them, I cannot go back or I'm going to die. Because that's how severe it was for me. And that's why a lot of times I was scared to leave, because I knew either he's going to find me or I'm going to have to come back because no one's going to believe me and I have nowhere to go. And then he's going to beat the crap out of me and I don't want to get in trouble. That's how my mind was. And so that's where I say, go to somewhere you can trust them, confide in them, let them know I'm done. I want to get out of this, but I literally can't go back. I need protection. And if that's the police station, that's where you need to go.
Yeah.
Second step, whether that's the same day or the next day, you go to your local courthouse and file for restraining order, emergency one, temporary one. And you don't sugarcoat things. You be honest. You let them know you're threatened for your life. You do whatever you got to do to get that restraining order in place. And once you get that, a lot of times, and with like my ex, they don't adhere to it even still. A lot of these times, these abusers are very ballsy and they are kind of like, no court's going to stop me, And if you're stuck somewhere by yourself and they do find you, what are you going to do? Wave a paper in front of them? No. So be careful where you go after that. Again, tell a friend, I need to stay with you for this moment. Don't post things on social media. Don't go to the places you're supposed to be. Give someone your phone if you're afraid you're going to go back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You could also find a shelter. There's a lot of them out there. Ruth's House. There's a lot of Break the Silence is another organization. You can contact them for help. But the number one thing is just take the first step.
Yeah.
Take that first step, okay? Because you just have to remember it's not going to stop, guys. It won't stop. Doesn't matter how much you pray, how much you change, what they say. Once you're in this abusive cycle, it won't stop. And I'm so sorry, but it won't. You need to get out of it. And if you have children, that's my biggest regret is I dragged my kids into that for years because I thought that's their dad. They need them. But you know what? You're an advocate for your children.
Yeah.
And you need to put them first. So get out of there. Get out of there.
That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And for all of you watching, we will have a link here so you can connect directly to Margeux on Instagram, social media, things like that. And if you have questions or you want to follow up, or like she shared, she'd send you signs, please connect with her. She's not just saying that to be nice. Like she genuinely means connect.
Absolutely.
So we'll have that link there for you as well. Thanks for today, just unpacking your journey and your story, who you are, who you're becoming, and encouraging all of us, and just that huge encouragement that wherever you are, take that next step, fight for it. And this becoming process is not easy, but it is worth it. So thank you.
It is.
You are amazing.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have been able to be here. This is awesome. And I love what you're doing and your whole organization. And I'm a fan and I'm cheering you guys on.
Right back at you, girl.